The book that I read for this book review was Hang a Thousand Trees with Ribbons by Anne Rinaldi. The book was written in the first point of view, so it was written in the point of view of the little girl named Phyllis Wheatley. So, a quick summary of the book was basically about Phyllis Wheatley, a picture of her here, and then how she was sold from slavery or taken from her home in Senegal and sold to a wealthy family in Boston named the Wheatleys. When she got to America, she was very educated and knew how to write, and that was very odd for a slave at that time, especially a woman slave at that. And on top of that, so her talent she used was to write poems. She started writing poems, and the book just talked about her unusual journey as a slave. She wasn't one of those who like worked in the fields or anything like that. She wrote poems and served the family in that way because the family became very famous and like they acquired their fame through her poems. One thing that I thought was interesting was one of her first poems that she wrote was published, and it was very controversial because people thought she didn't write it because she was a African American slave, and that was just very unusual. But in the end, they found out that she wrote it, and she became very famous. Her poems eventually, she was taken over to England by the Wheatleys, and there she became the first African American woman to ever publish a poem. This book was a nonfiction historical book, and I would definitely recommend it for people who are looking for a good read. It was a good read throughout. It kept me very interested and engaged. It was confusing at some points, but it was a good read. I recommend it for those who are just looking for a historical book about an African American slave who took an unusual journey through slavery.